presentation. After those activities, we will come back for questions. If you look on the table there, you will see question cards. If you have a question, if you think of it, please write it down on those cards. During our activities, we will collect them, kind of sort them to see if there's any duplicates. And when we get to Q&A, a staff member will read it aloud for the project team to answer. We do it that way just for efficiency, just so we can make sure that we get to as many questions as possible. And if we don't get any questions answered, we have them all, we can get them out to you. So thank you so much again. And with that, I will hand it over to Antoine.
Thank you, Bradley. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Let's try this again. All right. My name is Antoine Bryant. I am the director for the Planning and Development Department for the City of Detroit. We are very excited to be here for this neighborhood framework study for I-375. This is something that not only the Planning Department and the City of Detroit is excited to undergo, but we also are cognizant of something that this was something that many of our residents was looking forward to participating in. So very excited to see each and every last one of you here. We're going to be focused a lot of this on what's going to happen with the real estate after the construction of I-375. However, I do want to make note of you guys that have been here since 5:30. We have a number of tables and participants that are here that Bradley alerted you to. I want to make special notice to, we have an entire team from MDOT. You'll hear from John LeRae in a second, but they're also there in the back. They will be able to address specific questions about boulevard design as well as the Gratiot-Pell study. We also have representatives here representing the Joe Louis Greenway framework, so you can understand a little bit more about how that intersects with 375. So we're really excited to have them in here. Lastly, really want to lean in on the fact that we want to hear from every one of you about what that real estate will look like. And so that's what a lot of the effort led by the City of Detroit will be focused on. Also want to remind you all that we have food here. We know we came here during dinner time. So there's food over there to my left. We want you please to enjoy and take as much of it as you can so we don't have to take it back with us. Definitely thank you. We will be here the entire time for all of your questions. And now I'll pass it to my colleague, John LeRae with MDOT.
Thank you. So with that, I'll just provide a few quick updates. Really, today's focus is on kicking off the neighborhood framework and getting into that zoning and land use conversations. But a few things that we've been up to. We had a great Show Us tour that we held last September. We brought on new members of our design team, our progressive design build team, as well as the Interborough team that is working with the city, and went on 8 different stops throughout the neighborhood and had a great group of people telling us what made their neighborhood great and what some of their goals and aspirations were to see out of the project. And it was a really great way to introduce them to the project and hear a lot of differing views that will all have to come together throughout this neighborhood framework process. We also contracted with our progressive design build team. So Dan's in AECom is that selected team, and we're really excited to have that early contractor involvement. With that procurement, they are in an onboarding phase, so they are still really just learning about the conceptual design and about the overall project area, stakeholders, and starting to kind of recreate some of the work that was done. They're going to really help us meet a lot of our project goals in terms of having that disadvantaged business and local business participation, maintaining really strong accessibility and mobility during construction. So we're excited that they're really getting their feet wet and involved in the project, and they'll be a lot more involved on the road design and interchange design moving forward. We also had our local advisory committee meeting in October, where we were doing some similar activities to this, introducing some of the framework and its elements, and defining early some of the guiding principles that will carry us through this study. And we're really excited to get more input and feedback tonight that will also help develop that and having a really comprehensive framework moving forward. And we also are collaborating with DDP on our construction mitigation plan. We have heard time and time again of the concerns of the construction impacts and Part of that early contractor involvement is, looking at how we stage and how we build the project, and they'll be looking at that here in the winter, looking at some different options and understanding what those impacts look like, and we'll be able to share those out more in the spring and get some feedback and move those pieces forward. And really partnering with DDP and looking at what are other opportunities to provide other assistance during construction as well, looking at some best practices and other projects done around the country and bringing those to Detroit. So we're working on that comprehensive plan and moving that forward. So excited for that partnership. And with that, those are the few quick updates on the MDOT side for the road and interchange. I'll turn it back to John Sevils to talk framework.
I have two mics, so I'm trying to test. Thank you. Thank you. So excuse me, good evening, everyone. I'm John Sevils. I'm with the City of Detroit Planning and Development Department. And today's, my mic is here. Can you hear? Testing. Testing. Thank you. All right. So again, my name is John Sevils. I'm with the City of Detroit's Planning and Development Department. And we're here to talk about and take part in the discussions about the I-375 neighborhood framework. And this is more of a focus on zoning and land use, on urban design issues and elements, and also a means of introducing you all to our consultant team that will be helping us on this project throughout its duration. So for tonight's agenda, we'll start going through what the vision of the project is and just give an overview of the project itself and of the team as it's set up. Then we will talk about the framework process and its elements, as well as introduction to the activities by my colleague Ebony Payne from Interboro. And at the very end, we will have a question and answer session that we will take your questions and answer them as many as we can. And any questions we cannot get to, we will follow up after this meeting. So our vision is to have a new boulevard corridor that creates equitable opportunities, enhances mobility, celebrates our centers of culture, and honors our history. And with that, we would need a process that helps us to achieve that. So the project, this is the public kickoff of the I-375 neighborhood framework. This is focused on the framework itself. The framework does complement the I-375 Boulevard project in the design process. But it's also to define a vision for the new land, approximately 30+ acres, that is created as a result of the construction of the boulevard. But also looking at how do we connect back to our existing communities. So this means that this has to be appropriately done as well. And with the framework, many of you we've had plenty of discussions on the boulevard design and construction that is led by MDOT. And tonight our focus being on the neighborhood framework itself. Just to introduce, for zoning and land use, we have Interboro partners. For the framework itself, we do have HPD also that is in support of the overall effort. For engagement, we have for engagement, testing, can we hear? For engagement, we have DCDC. For our historic narrative, we have Black Bottom Archives. And we also have for urban design, the team of Quinn Evans and Zimmer Gunzel Frasca. And for mobility, we have Nelson Nygaard. And as mentioned earlier, we have Dan's excavating on the Boulevard Design and Construction for Progressive Design Build, along with AECOM. So what is a framework? It's a holistic strategy that guides future decisions on the built environment. So it's thinking of a framework is a holistic strategy that guides future decisions on the built environment. So it's looking at what is appropriate with the community surrounding this boulevard, and how do we begin to activate the space that I just mentioned, the 30+ acres. And within the framework, it could include multiple components that inform our community, such as land use and zoning, much of which we're here to talk about this evening, policy considerations, and more. So the time frame of the framework, we actually started in September in bringing on our consultants for the full team, and we will end in August of 2025, at the end of August. Right now, we're in a phase that we refer to as discovery. So this is where we are talking to you about and getting to have a better sense of the surrounding community to this project, and introducing the neighborhood framework and the process to you all. But just as important to get the feedback as to what can make this successful, or what are your thoughts, and also what are your challenges to this project. Then we will go into visioning and beginning to think about and take into consideration a lot of the comments that you have made and questions that you have asked, and begin to go more into the challenges and opportunities and have greater visualization of them. From there, we go into drafting, say, an early draft of what the framework should be. And this is just getting a better sense. This is getting a better sense. Are we actively reflecting what you are envisioning for this space? What is it that we need to change? We ask that question. And finally, hopefully that we will have a framework in place that is reflective of the folks that are here in the room, in a way that you could see yourselves within this framework, see your communities in this framework, and hopefully see that we are responding in a way that is appropriate to your respective community. So as I mentioned, there's elements to the overall framework of zoning and land use, and understanding what particular zoning designation is appropriate within the 30+ acres, but also thinking about what are the uses that takes place within the zone that is appropriate and that maybe can serve your community. The urban design, how do you experience this space? As not only we talk about the boulevard kind of in a north-south fashion, but you're also thinking east-west. If you're like me, I go east-west daily. That's how I get to work, as do many of you, be it getting to work, getting to where places where of culture, or any business that you may have. Centered about this, history, art, and culture. We all understand the complexities of what this area is about from a historic standpoint. Its beginnings, the Native American settlement, the wave of immigration that has happened with Germans, with the Greek community, with the Jewish community, and also with the Black community. And with that, in support, housing, open space, mobility, how does that factor into the overall makeup of what this area is to be? How do we inform that? So you've heard John talk about the Show Us Tour and what we began to learn from it. And just highlight bullet points just from across the different communities that we've talked to. The need to balance density and open space in future development, to plan for temporary to permanent land uses, because many are concerned about what does the land become immediately after it's finished, in addition to what it could be looking in the future, and what are we asking ourselves, what do we want out of it? Consider cultural integrity and promote historic awareness. Maintain public access to cultural entertainment centers, and also ensure business viability, but also opportunities to have businesses in this space as well. And what could implementing priority projects become? And this is where we begin to think about community enhancements. And that could be anything from policy considerations, as we talked about zoning and land use, that could govern what could go in this space, but also different types of uses, be it if it's open space, temporary space, if it's art and culture and how we begin to depict it in a meaningful way. What are the guidelines that we use to actually begin to physically connect these spaces? As there is a commitment to use Streets for People as a guide in the design of the boulevard, but also in the consideration of how we connect. Next. So I'm going to turn it over to Ebony Payne, and she will take you through the engagement activities for this evening, and apologize for the mic issues.
All right, thanks, John. Just going to get a quick mic check. If anybody can't hear me, just yell. But basically, I'm going to introduce the engagement activities for the evening. As John mentioned, my name is Ebony Payne. I'm representing Interborough Partners as the project manager for the zoning and land use framework. And what we really want to learn from the various stations that you see around the room are how you hope the neighborhood framework will enhance your neighborhoods. As John mentioned, this project is starting to focus more on the new land that's going to be created and the connections to the surrounding neighborhoods, in complement to the construction of the boulevard. And we also want to hear from you what else we should investigate. This is really the first step at looking at the framework. So the more that we know what to research in the future, the better, and we want to hear that from you. And we also want to hear who else we should talk to during this process. Next slide. So as you can see, there are various activity stations around the rooms. There are also prompts on boards around the rooms that are sort of free response. Read the questions and you can write on the board directly. And please visit as many of the stations and respond to as many of the prompts as possible. We want to hear your feedback on as many of the aspects of this project that you are interested in sharing about. Next. So everybody should have received an information booklet on the way in. If you didn't, they're located at the sign-in table in the corner of the room. But in your info booklets on the back, you'll see a map of the room and the various stations that we have. In the back corner where you walked in, there are some basic information boards that just gives the overall who, what, when, and where of the project. We have a food station that's very important. We have a reflection prompt that's asking about what your personal connection to this project is. And then the theme of this wall is really all about the history, arts, and culture. So we have a wonderful exhibit from the Black Bottom Archives team. You can see the large map there. If you have anything that you'd like to contribute, be it a story about the historic neighborhoods or information about specific sites in the historic neighborhoods to contribute to the map, definitely check out their station. We have another station about history, arts, and culture where we're asking people about how they think this project should connect to the past and honor the history. And then on this wall, we have zoning and land use, urban design, and mobility. So focusing on the new land, what might happen on the new land, and comparing some of the different sites around Detroit to the sizes of the new parcels that would be created. So you can get a sense of the scale of what's going to be new. And at the mobility station, we're asking about what types of connections you want to see, what types of mobility you would like to see expanded by the construction of the boulevard. And then on the back wall, we have some additional prompts stationed around the room, but also the construction and design team for the boulevard. So I know that people have questions about that. Please direct your questions back there. They'll be happy to answer them. And if you have questions that you've written down on question cards, please also turn them into that resource table in the back. Next slide. This is just reiterating the same thing. There are question cards all around the room. We'll be collecting them throughout the evening as you're walking around. But at the end, there will be a live readout of questions that have been collected throughout the evening. Next slide. And lastly, following up at the intro table, there are links that you can follow if you would like to see more information, both about the boulevard and about the framework. And with that, I'll hand it back to John.
Okay, thanks, thanks, Ebony. So just for information, and I'm going to leave this up, for further questions for the neighborhood framework, we have an email set up at I-375@detroitmi.gov. And also to subscribe for more information on the framework and receive updates. We have a website at detroitmi.gov/I-375, no dash between the I and the 375. And you may contact me directly. Phone number is 313-224-4403. And for the boulevard design, you may email MDOT at mdot-I-375corridor@michigan.gov. The website at michigan.gov/I-375. And also links to comment and subscribe. And you may contact MDOT directly at 855-375-MDOT or 6368. And with that, I encourage you to take part in the activities. It is important in how we begin to measure and begin to reflect your thoughts on the framework. And there will be many more opportunities, but encourage you all to take place. And also, just as a reminder, we do have food at the far end of the room as well. Questions will start at about 7 o'clock, and we'll reconvene back.
Question of the night is, as part,
You might want to just ask them to.
do you want them to? If you are interested in hearing the Q&A portion of the evening, please return to your seats if you are able to. We would like to be respectful of anybody that would like to hear the Q&A portion of the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. If you could please lower your voices a little bit. We are about to begin Q&A, and there are lots of people who want to hear the questions and the answers.
You turn this mic up? It's not even on. You turn the mic up? It is? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. We are getting ready to start the Q&A. Please be respectful of your neighbors so that we can hear the questions and the answers.
So now just yell at them and just talk all the time. Okay. Our first question of the night is, as part of this project, are we willing to restore the names of the streets demolished, for example, Hastings Street?
Yes, so we will have the I-375 today will become M375 because it will no longer be part of the interstate system. However, the name of the street is something that will be determined at a later date, I think towards the end of the framework planning process, because we want to make sure that the street is indicative of what comes out of that process and what we want that street to be. And I think as we work through those details, looking at that in the context of the neighborhood framework, it will help steer us in terms of what that name can be. And there will be an opportunity to weigh in on that as well. So we'll take collection of different names to be considered and collect feedback and ultimately determine what the names will be.
Thank you, John. Our next question is, why isn't the first priority to create a new Black Bottom / Paradise Valley since they were destroyed by a racist government?
So, thank you for that great question. I think that is a priority that the city takes seriously, and I also think it's a priority that MDOT will take seriously. Right now, we're working on what the real estate will become, but I think a lot of attention and a lot of it will come from this process is how we look forward to rebuilding what was lost here. So it is a priority, and it's something that we're taking very seriously and look forward to helping to recreate.
Thank you. Our next question, is there a consideration of more green spaces, natural beauty, and community gathering places?
Yeah, so part of the discussion that we're having here is to determine what that is. Given that, typically in urban design and the study of it, understanding land use, but understanding the balance of open space that we have with open space that could be needed, and also what development could also look like within this space. So everything, if you've taken part in the exercises over here, it is intentionally to get your feedback on open space and how it is considered in this overall process. So yes.
Thank you. Our next question, will the construction be managed to ensure quality of life continuation for existing residents? They have a couple of things listed: quiet, emissions, sustainable, and air quality.
That is definitely a big focus on this project, particularly with the neighborhood to the east. So we already have some commitments that we make through our environmental process, but we also have made some changes in terms of how we actually bring on the team that's going to build the project. Instead of designing it all and then putting those out and finding a contractor to build it, we're bringing the contractor in early to have some contractor involvement during the design phase to look at what those impacts could be during construction and understand what those haul routes look like, understand where their equipment, where their employees are going to be parking. And the biggest focus of all is really looking at how they construct the project in terms of how it's staged to make sure that we can maintain the access and mobility during construction is a really big focus. So all of those things are important considerations, and we are once again partnering with the Downtown Detroit Partnership to look at those mitigation strategies and more to help look at how we can support the businesses in the area during construction. We know communication is very important, making sure that people know how to get around at all times so that there's no confusion, so that they will continue to visit and move around the area effectively.
Thank you. How will you ensure walking through these areas is not just possible, but also safe and attractive to people of all ages and abilities? How will you ensure walking through these areas is not just possible, but also safe and attractive to people of all ages and abilities?
One of the things is we mentioned during the presentation is the use of Streets for People. So that comprehensive document is actually an important tool we use with the City of Detroit to begin to address that. What is the urban condition that you're walking through? As I've mentioned before, in many cases, not only just the boulevard north and south that you think about, but there's also east and west, which for a lot of folks that live in this neighborhood, that's your principal way that you will experience this space. So it's imperative for us to make sure that that is understood well, even from a personal standpoint. So, hey.
Thank you, John. Our next question, what is MDOT's vision for the use of the land and want to see? What is MDOT's vision for the use of the land? And I assume that this person means what does MDOT want to see? What is MDOT's vision for the land?
Well, I'm going to steal this question from MDOT because this is about the vision of the City of Detroit and its residents in conjunction with the design of the boulevard. So this is why we are working in partnership. The framework we do have support from MDOT, but the City of Detroit is leading this overall process. This is why we're here. This is why we have the consultants. Some of you, if I've mentioned before in the past, I want the framework to be highly integral. I don't want it to be a series of farmer fields of processes, but this all needs to work together, and this is inclusive of the feedback that we get from you all going forward.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, how will the I-375 framework integrate with the new GM/Bedrock plans for the Renson and the riverfront?
So thank you for that. I think the best way we can answer that is we're focused right now on what's going to happen with I-375 in the real estate. We, quite frankly, have no authority over what's going to happen with Renson. That's going to be entirely led by GM and by Bedrock. I think it's fair to say we are seeing everything in the press just like many of you, and I think those designs are still conceptual and still open. And so obviously in a best case scenario, we're going to be working together, but I still think it's yet to be determined what's going to happen with the Renson moving forward.
Thank you. The next question is in regards to funding sources. It says, is it possible that you'll lose funding, the project? Do you have the money in the bank, is what this question says.
That's an easy answer for me, is that yes, we have the money in the bank. So yeah, it is fully funded. We have the infra grant is obligated on the federal government side, and we have the state funds that are covering the rest of the project. So it is fully funded and moving forward.
Okay, perfect. Our next question, will you evaluate the impact on property values for homeowners in the communities adjacent to I-375, Lafayette Park, as an example?
Evaluating, I think it's going to be a part of the conversation. Whenever we have these kinds of initiatives that eventually will lead to a tremendous transformation along those neighborhoods, typically there is an increase in property value. And so that's something that we've seen where we measure it amongst the same kind of construction in other cities across the country. And so we expect that it'll probably be the exact same thing here, but we will be evaluating that over the course of construction.
Okay, thank you. The next question, this one is a very simple question. It says, when did Detroiters vote on this project? I just read them.
So this is probably between the two of us, because I think both of us have been on the project in some capacity or another longer than most anyone in the room. The project did go through a process of conceptual design as early as, 2016, 2017. And even earlier than that, through a planning and environmental linkages study in 2014. In 2016, 2017, the East Riverfront Framework did a conceptual analysis of the corridor as to what could the possibility of a surface boulevard become in this space. And from that, there was further study into what could happen, like not only just connecting to the riverfront, but just how to have a sense of place along within this corridor, coupled with the maintenance of the bridges, which I'll let John talk more about. We looked at from that point as an opportunity that this could be something that is transformative, and something that we could begin to build upon for a better future within this space. So in terms of the community, and again, I'll let John also chime in on this. In terms of the community, there have been a number of either stakeholder meetings or public meetings related to the project since about 2017. There was some interruption during the pandemic, and then the more recent startup, I think, 2022. But if you wanted to comment more on the meeting structure and the process during that time.
Yeah, sure. So, just kind of reiterating what John said, we didn't just come up with this overnight in a back room anywhere. It was done through a very public process, starting with our planning environmental linkages study that was in fact led by the Downtown Development Authority and looking at what options were. And through that study determined that going back with a freeway, a last mile into Detroit, that's dispersing traffic and not providing a strong riverfront connection was not a good solution to move forward with. And then in 2017, we started our environmental assessment, and we had another series of meetings and engagements at that time to help further develop this concept. And then we've, kind of moved into this design phase and continue to have this engagement and around the framework now. So there's been a lot of opportunity to provide feedback on the project, and that's, shaped the project to what it is today.
Sorry, we're just trying to be respectful of questions that have already been submitted. If you wouldn't mind holding your question till the end, if that would be okay? Okay, thank you so much. The next question that we have says, has there been any contact to the Michigan Historical Marker to erect one on the new spaces? A new historical marker on the new spaces?
There hasn't been any contact yet, but that is a consideration. So right now, there's a few of the historically significant pieces we're looking at. There is the Black Bottom historical marker that's in Lafayette Park today. There's a Paradise Valley historical marker that's in near the Ford Field parking garage today. And there's also one for the infantry, the 101st Infantry, that's in one of the schools in the Lafayette Park area as well. So there's a few historical markers that exist. I think when we talk about how we appropriately honor that history, discussion about if those markers are in the appropriate location or if there's a more prominent location as part of the project is something that can certainly be discussed. But I think regardless of if those move or not, I think capturing that history and sharing some of those stories within the corridor is something that we see as important and are going to look at how we can implement that through our planning and design.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. This is part of the reason why in some of the questioning that you may have seen here about who it is that we need to know or your connection to this area from a historic standpoint, or any stories that you may have, because a lot of times out of this, we get a fuller picture beyond just what is on a marker. And this helps us to discover how we properly honor our history and how we celebrate our history, because we need to hear about our history as well. I just want to underscore that.
Thank you. Our next question. I really like the DDP idea for 2 roads. Can we do that?
We are looking at, I think, first off, I'll say we're, extremely appreciative of the DDP peer review effort and the collaboration that came out of that. And there's some things we have been able to implement, but we won't be able to implement everything. So I think the challenge or the problem, the 2-road design as it stands today, is it has a road that goes through the Brewery Park Cranes site, which is a rather large impact that's not part of the project and one that's not necessary for the project. And we really want to make sure that we serve a strong connection into the downtown as well, for the casino, for all the special events, for the large employers. Well, there's things that we're looking at closer, some of the geometries and some of the interchange layout and intersections, looking at that operationally. The 2 roads one is one that we're not looking at pursuing any further.
Thank you. Our next question is, will disruptions to current DDOT service be mitigated, and how? How will the city connect with transit riders regarding this project?
So part of the careful engagement with residents includes engagement with all of our riders that are patronizing DDOT. And so we, during the construction process, we'll make sure that we are communicating definitively with all of our riders that are with DDOT and during the construction process. So that's going to be a critical part of the engagement effort. But we also want to ensure that we are addressing what's going to happen after construction as well, which is what the City of Detroit Planning Department is really focused on right now.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. There are actually 2 questions here. How does the framework planning inform the progressive design development? And the second question is, what is the construction schedule?
I'm going to go backwards. So yeah, starting with the construction schedule. So we are looking at having some early work starting at the end of 2025, with major construction occurring in 2026 through 2028 timeframe. So yeah, looking at the work in 2025 as having minimal impact on how people move around the area, but just kickstarting things so that we can hit the ground running in 2026 with the construction. And then really right now we are with that team and looking at those pieces, moving this framework process forward to make sure that we can integrate anything that comes out of the framework into that design. The work that's done early is not going to be impacted by the framework plan at all. So we'll have that ability to make sure that we have time, into the 2026 season to make sure that we can implement all of the great things that come out and all the great ideas that come through the framework, and make sure that they're implemented in the road design project.
Okay, perfect. Our next question. I heard there was a time frame for funds to be used on the project. Has that been extended?
There is no time frame for the funds to be used on the project, but they are allocated to certain construction years, so we are following that schedule.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. Why do you keep saying that new land is being created? The land exists today. It's just being used inefficiently at the moment. I just read them.
There are 30 acres that are created as a result of the construction at the surface with the surface boulevard. That currently it's a divided highway that's sunken. That's why we say that there are 30 acres that would be made available with the construction of the surface boulevard. And the task before us is to understand what could those 30 acres become and how we have the urban solution for that, or consideration of the broader urban design issues or zoning and land use that feed into that.
Thank you. A few more questions here. Thank you. Are you considering future of mobility considerations? EV charging, public rail.
So yeah, I think we consider all of those things, but yeah, I think public charging, say in the roadway, you could say being done in Michigan Avenue area or in the Corktown area under the pavement, but yeah, there's no real standard to put charging into, say, on-street parking. So, you know, I think what we do is look to not preclude such things. You know, we'll have space and opportunity for those things that could be retrofitted in the future, but they're not really developed at this point in time for us to put those technologies into the roadway right now. And right now, you know, we've worked closely with DDOT Smart and RTA and looking at, you know, the various transit opportunities. Well, there's not going to be an increased service on day one. We fully anticipate that transit service will increase in the corridor over time, and so we are providing the space for that growth to occur, even though it might not be there with a number of robust stations on the first day.
Okay, thank you. Our next question, a little long. Detroit is a design city, and we have beautiful architecture from 100+ years ago. Will there be any engagement of top-level architecture versus the glass boxes and minimalist cubes now being erected throughout the city? It would be forward-looking, attracting tourists, and engender pride among citizens.
So as an architect, I would hope that we get to that. I'll be flat honest with you, but that's not the subject of why we're here currently, because we're not deciding what buildings necessarily come there. I will say the city of Detroit does have standards that begin to govern how we consider appropriateness, and we do have a design review process within the city that we advise to. And hopefully that is in consideration of what's existing surrounding any existing historic structures that are in the area, just to make sure that things are properly scaled, proper materials are used, etc. But just to underscore, that's a little bit far out, but again, I would hope that that would be under some sort of consideration with whatever project that could happen in that space.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. It seems like there is a starting point for the land use framework in DDP's peer review. Have you considered starting with that as opposed to from scratch?
So part of the exercise that we've had with the DDP, and we've been in plenty of conversations, I've actually spoken to the class at Harvard with Tony Griffin on the work that her students was doing in this area. There's been plenty of engagement between the city, MDOT, and the DDP on the land use. I think one of the conversations that we had, and I don't mind mentioning it, the effort wasn't meant to be the final result. And this came from the designer of that effort. It wasn't meant to be a final result. What it was meant to be is a reference point that as we start, And as we have a more robust engagement structure, that we're able to consider what we can use, but also take into consideration what it is and understand what it is that we can't use. We remain fully committed to continue to engage all of you all. And as John mentioned, we're also in continued engagement regarding construction mitigation. So those efforts hadn't stopped. Just letting you all know that that was an iterative process in that, and very much welcome the partnership that we had.
Okay, thank you. Our next question. I'm just going to read it word for it. I don't have any context, okay? It says, do we get our slice of the pie?
So I think I'm trying to interpret the question. There's a lot of people that could be we in that particular question. But one thing that is emphatically clear that we heard not only from offline conversations, but also from residents that could not make this meeting, also from residents that wanted to and feel that they should be here. It is our distinct desire from the city of Detroit that this is an inclusive process. We look forward to more people being at our February meeting. We had over 130 people sign in. Normally, 20 to 30% of the people don't sign in. So there may have been 150, 175 people walk through this door this evening. We look forward to having that and many more at subsequent meetings. We will continue to ensure that this is an inclusive process because we think it's important that everyone gets a slice of the pie. There's a big pie, and I think everybody needs to have their chance to be a part of this process.
Thank you. Our next question, which public entity will retain ownership of the land after the project, and what is the process for land distribution and sales?
So the excess property was purchased with federal and state transportation dollars, so the ownership does revert back to the state of Michigan. We are the underlying owner. It is our approach is to look at how we can use the value of that land to provide community enhancements and support what comes out of this framework in the zoning and land use. So ultimately, we haven't determined exactly if it will be turned over to the city or if MDOT will directly release that over time for redevelopment or what that looks like. Really, we want to hear the input from this room and from others in terms of what that plan is, and then determine how best to deliver it. But it does, ultimately it is owned by MDOT.
Thank you. Our next question, how do we make sure this is not another Jefferson Avenue to cross?
I think we've already, we've heard a lot of feedback about that boulevard and the width, and we've already gone back in some of our conceptual design revisions and addressed that. It is definitely not a Jefferson Avenue, on scale, or it's smaller scale than even most of the city streets in the area, including Lafayette and others. So we also have that hyper focus on those pedestrian crossings and traffic calming. Making sure that it is a corridor for all users, not just bikes or not just cars and not just people walking, but it's able to accommodate all users and balance them, and really use the best practices to ensure that it is safe for those pedestrians to cross, and providing really strong pedestrian crossing presence and environment for that to occur.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Our next one, it's a question and then they've got a little bit of a comment afterwards that will provide some context. So it says, what kind of zoning? I would like to see little pop-up shops and a small format city Target or something. Currently, I have to go to the burbs for that kind of shopping.
I think part of this process, again, is about understanding what is appropriate in that space. We do welcome your comments in on that. So I think I couldn't readily commit to anything sitting here. I think what we want to do is take in what we understand from this space, as well as our future meetings, but also to analyze it and to understand, again, what is appropriate that could happen. I know a lot of folks have talked about different ways of having opportunities here, either say as an enterprise that they may have, housing that could be desired. So there's a lot to discover, and we still have a ways to determine what's appropriate within here.
Okay, thank you so much. So sorry to disappoint, but that was our last question, folks. I don't think we have any more. Do we have any written ones? We are not taking for. What do you, okay. Do you have one that you would like to ask? Okay. These are all comments. What will increase the property value? Please make sure the historical context is represented.
I could tell you with a historic context, this is why we're here, and it's important to hear and understand the story so that it is taken into consideration. This is something that I know the city feels strongly about. This is something that I know many of you feel strongly about, just to make sure that it is understood, make sure that it is appropriate, make sure that we are hearing you with regards to the importance of this coming in. But in addition to that, it's the stories, it's the places in which these stories come out of, it's the communities that have immigrated in and out, it's the communities that are still here that still have a presence. There's all of that comes into consideration.
Okay, perfect. I have a couple comments here that I'll read. This comment says, please include green spaces, historical and educational wall/places for art, walk/bike trails, and other venues that will include opportunities for artists, music, and activities. We've got another one that says, develop an inspiring vision and clear principles to guide the framework plan and the road design. And then this comment says, a historical marker isn't good enough for the young generation. They don't know the history of Black Bottom / Plum Street, Hastings, where these have historically been, this area. You have to put something along to stand out. At today's cost of $270 million in today's dollars, how do you justify rededicating the 30 acres of new use lands? 270 million. At today's cost of 270 million. I can reread it. Okay. At today's cost of 270 million in today's dollars, how do you justify rededicating the 30 acres of new use lands?
I'm not to be honest with you, I don't understand the dollar figure, but in terms of what the 30 acres become, this is again why we're here to talk about and understand what's appropriate within the space itself, from zoning, land use, urban design, history, art, and culture, that all of that comes into being. But to justify it, I mean, there's analysis that we have to conduct over a period of time. This is a process that lasts through the end of August, and that will contribute to the overall framework in and of itself. I don't know if I've answered your question. Does not.
You're spending $270 million to rededicate 30 acres of land. At $9 million an acre, there should be better use for that $270 million for the city of Detroit.
Are you talking about the cost of, the boulevard itself?
Yeah, I mean, the freeway, the infrastructure, the bridges is over 60 years old now, and it needs to be replaced. So that's the need for the project and for moving forward with it. The 30 acres of excess property is just an ancillary benefit, a result of the reconfiguration of the roadway. So it just provides more opportunities to address the neighborhood, to address the history and provide a connective tissue around the project. But ultimately, it's the condition of the road needs to be replaced, and that's what is the cost of the project.
Okay. All right. We got one more? Sure. This question says, what will be done to mitigate flooding when the freeway will be filled in? The freeway is filled in.
So, yeah, actually, there's a significant stormwater improvement with the project. Something that we're excited about as well is, the entire project area is we are able to take all of the water now that goes into the combined DWSD sewer system and treat that and outfall that directly into the Detroit River. And also have a separate outfall for DWSD to address the excess property as well. And so what that does is provides that water a place to go when we have a large rain event and people are showering and flushing the toilets, and it overflows and it goes into your basement, the sewage water. When we pull out that storm water, the opportunity for that to happen in this area decreases substantially. And so it's a huge benefit to decrease those flooding types of events in this area. So it is something that we're excited about being able to do, is to really increase that capacity with this project.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
No? Perfect. One more. I think this is going to be our very last one. How do you have 30 acres of land, of created land, but don't have a plan for it? And then it says in parentheses, prime real estate.
This is part of the effort why we're here, is to understand what should be appropriate for those 30 acres. So collectively, we are developing the plan. We've talked about a vision. That was something that was mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. It's the ability to build to that vision that we're striving towards. Again, that is inclusive of all of you, as well as the process of our analysis and study with regards to the framework. Antoine, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I think that brings us to the end of our meeting. I want to thank all of you so much for your attendance and your attention. The project team will be around for a few more minutes if anybody would like to speak one-on-one with the project team, but otherwise, everybody have a great night, safe travels home, and happy holidays. Oh.